Yeah, it's time for Type 40, a little extra Type 40 today here on the Spacebook channel, exclusively with me, Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. Lucky you, eh? Lucky you. But it's not just me. The idea with these videos is that this is a before show, after show, and in between show to everything else that we do at Type 40 and Type 40 Live to chill out, talk about the news, talk about something that's sort of on your mind as a Doctor Who fan in 2022. It's such an exciting, exciting time, such a precarious time, and to catch up with mates. And speaking of which, I'm going to pick up the call now. Pick up the call. Who's calling? Who's calling? Who's calling? You may ask. Well, I'm happy to say, it's the one, the only, all the way from Audred AudioVisual. It's my mate Lee. Hello, mate. How you going?
The caller has cleared the line. The caller has cleared the line. Please hang up and try again. Hello.
That's it. It's him. It's him. People ask me, first of all, mate, people ask me still after the best part of 2 years, who created, who arranged and performed the theme to Type 40 and Type 40 Live. And it was this guy.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah.
It is the best theme in Doctor Who podcasts. I'm continually boasting about it, so thank you. But it was, I say, that was relatively, it's quite a long time ago for you. You've done all sorts of stuff since, haven't you? With music and with graphics and all manner of creative endeavors. You've really moved on, really evolved in a short period of time, haven't you?
Well, I mean, thanks lockdown. Really, that was the great instigator to sort of pick up a new skill to add to my little collection of semi abilities. And I mean, before then, I'd sort of really done music primarily. And during lockdown, I thought, ooh, I'm going to try this 3D stuff, and
I remember you telling me about it. I remember you saying that you were gonna pick up Blender. You're gonna see what you could do. I think you said, I'm going to give myself a certain period of time and really get my head into it. And you really did, didn't you?
Yeah, well, there wasn't much choice. You're sort of stuck in your house, and I was like, well, I might as well try this. And there's a lot of
mate, there's only so much porn you can watch.
Well, that's true.
Whatever your orientation.
That's true.
Sorry, YouTube.
Well, outrageous. This is how you treat all your guests, honestly. Then I was looking at tutorials and, how to make a donut and how to make it like a cup of coffee. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm going to get straight into, doing something I liked. So I did some title sequence for Noel's channel, the TARDIS Zone, and did a few bits and pieces here and there, and that was it. Really, it just kind of snowballed, and mostly Doctor Who related. I can't help it. I'm going to say
there is. Do you ever get the point as well now and again? Because I do the various projects that I've got going on, and some of them see the light of day, and some of them don't. And you think, oh no, I'll stop working on Doctor Who stuff and I'll go and do something else. And you go and you scratch that itch, and the default setting is often Doctor Who. You crack some new skill, or you buy some new bit of kit, and the very first thing you do is sort of think how you can apply it to Doctor Who in some way. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that's the wonder of Doctor Who. I think especially once it gets a hold of you, it sort of becomes almost imbued as part of you. Growing up, it's so intrinsic to your nature because it speaks to you in so many different levels, creatively and just fanboying out and stuff like that. But really, I think Doctor Who is an inspirational show. It does fire off the imagination, and you do want to be a part of it in some way. We're all sort of enthralled by the opening titles of Doctor Who, no matter which era you started from, really. And that really sort of triggered me. I mean, it's such a creative force. It's a force of nature almost. It's intrinsic again to our deep-seated nerdiness, geekiness, but also this fascination with science fiction, the past, the future, all of those things, and the alienness, and it's got a great visual language, Doctor Who. I mean, from the design of our favorite pepper pots to, the jug ears of the Cybermen, and the logo and the music, of course. Delia Derbyshire's wonderful original well, it was her arrangement, but it was obviously it was really. So I think it was her inventiveness with sound that brought out Ron Grainer's composition, and I don't think it's ever really been bettered. I think Howell's version is very close. That used to be my favorite, but the more I listen to Delia, the more I love it. And I kind of wanted to sort of take those elements and sort of expound upon them in my own sort of way as well. And I love all these arrangements of the themes. I think they're wonderful. It's a great
Doctor Who is like being hit in all senses. I think particularly when you're a child, but not exclusively. As you say, it hits you in the ears. The music, Dudley Simpson's music back when yes, everybody. I know I don't look it, but I really am that old. So when I started watching it and Dudley Simpson was still doing the incidental music, Doctor Who sounded like no other show on TV. It looked like no other show on TV because it got less money than every other show on TV. But it got those opening credits, which were so distinctive and so copied, so spoofed, and so it was like going into a pocket inside something else, inside the television landscape. There's no show like Doctor Who, and when you think about it, I suppose, and this is for better or for worse, a lot of the actors, household names in some cases, people like Richard Bryars, you see them in umpteen shows, but when they get into Doctor Who. Even, he was a fantastic actor. Put him in Doctor Who, and he turns in a performance unlike any other that he gave before or after. In his case, I don't think he got it, but I think he did understand that Doctor Who. That's a really bad example, but I think in his case, I think he felt the same as we did. I think he knew he was going somewhere else, and so it kicked in to something that was within him, and he made a creative choice, and that for better or for worse, just like Paul Darrow. But Paul Darrow was slightly different. It was the thing between him and Colin Baker. Was it all that one-upmanship and all the rest of it? I'm rattling on, talking absolute nonsense.
Justice for Time Lash.
If you're enjoying our little chat so far, this is the reminder to please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Why not? What's the worst thing that can happen? I hit you with more Doctor Who chat like this, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about what we're doing next. Whether it's a podcast. The other day, I spoke to all the writers, for example, that have contributed to this brand new Doctor Who anthology book that's just been published this week. So I spoke to all of them. That was Ken Deep and Shane Thomas and Hannah Friedman. They were on the show. And of course, there's Type 40 Live to talk about so many things on that show. A lot of it just falls out of my ear. So what was on that? Can't remember. You probably have a better idea than I do, but it's all up on the channel now for you to enjoy over and over again. But when I said about Doctor Who itself hitting us in the senses, Lee, I find this in the everyday as well. So I remember being a kid, and this still happens to me now. You see the most innocent things, and they remind you of Doctor Who.
Are you sure it's not Paw Patrol?
But you know what I mean? You think, that looks like a Doctor Who logo. That looks like a Doctor Who monster. You could turn that upside down, and I can imagine that coming out of a corridor at TV Centre. And in this instance, with Smith's Square Crisps, I remember seeing these in the supermarket and thinking, they've nicked the Doctor Who logo. Obviously a fan working there at Smith's all that time ago. But I want to talk to you about the logo, but I wanted to ask you about something else as well, because I'm very, very aware. The first time that we met, you were, in fact, I think you were kind of semi-cosplaying one Doctor Who character. I don't know if you remember this. And but that character was back on screen a couple of weeks ago. So when I saw Sylvester McCoy there, I thought, that's Lee's Doctor. So obviously, you're very much in the same camp as I am. I haven't had the best of times with the show over the last few years. But those moments, those isolated moments with my Doctor, Peter Davison, and then Sylvester McCoy and their respective companions, Tegan and Ace, did that hit you in the feels during the Pair of the Doctor? How was that for you?
Well, I think Sylvester's appearance for me was really the main, if not one of the only highlights of the power of the the power of the day of the Daleks, of the Doctor, of
Yeah.
the girl power of the thing, of the rings of the power of the Doctor. Yeah, I mean, it was so lovely to see, you know, to see him. And I wouldn't say Sylvester is one of my absolute favorite Doctors growing up, you know, because it was so different really from what we've been used to, you know, the long frock coats and the things like that. On a purely sort of aesthetic view. And obviously the first season was a little bit clunky, but he grew on me so much when I was at high school. And so much so that, you know, I went to the school fete, and kids today don't know how tough it was to be a Doctor Who fan in the 90s, not 90s, early mid to late 80s, let's say, to the point where I was bullied and harassed and beaten up for it, but I didn't care. I had the brolly, I had the Panama hat, I had the sort of white cream coat and the checkered trousers and the, you know, those Oxford shoes and the umbrella. I didn't have the question mark at the time, and I had the my gran knitted me a question mark tank top, which I wore, bless her. And I loved that, you know, because, and that really was sort of before sort of cosplay was a thing, you know. This was, you know, I'm sure many fans many times did that back then.
That was the impression that I got when you've spoken to me about it before, that it's not so much that maybe that he wasn't your Doctor, but that it was this real sort of formative time.
I was in the spirit of it, you know, and it was great having Doctor Who back. And of course, at the time, Dapol was just releasing figures and we're all excited again. Little did we know, but anyway, but it was a joy. And seeing him back on screen with Sophie, I mean, I met Sylv and Sophie at the dress rehearsal for Ghostlight at the BBC, because my school had a wonderful Doctor Who club. Yeah, and so we got to see all the sort of shenanigans going on behind set and seeing them in costume as well. So that was great. He didn't wear his tank top, but I did when I went to meet him, and he said, "Oh, snap!" I said, "You're not wearing it." I said, "But it's too hot. It's dress rehearsal." And they were absolutely lovely. And Sophie was dressed in a Victorian gown at the time as well.
Yeah, she
was very sweet. And you know, J&T was there, and you know, we had a great time. Very sort of, it's a very long process. I remember that sort of standing there behind the black curtains, looking through the set of this wonderful entrance hall of the Victorian house that we saw in Ghostlight. So we got to see all of that, the lift doors opening and stuff like that. And it was great.
Well, you told me about the Doctor Who Club. I've never heard you talk about that before. How do you feel now when you see Ghostlight, when you go back and rewatch it? Do you remember that visit, or is there a separation there? You know,
I mean, I think about it every time I watch it, you know, and I'm always waiting for that scene, because I go, well, that's the one I remember them doing. And it's weird as well, because when you think about it, at that point they must have known, because it was the last story that they filmed, isn't it? So they would have known that they were not coming back, but we didn't. And that must have been really difficult for them, I should imagine, you know, seeing these sort of bright, cheery faces all in awe. And it's like, oh, if only they knew, we'd break their hearts. But yeah, that sticks with me as well. But they were so lovely and so gracious. And J&T, who had also visited our Doctor Who club along with Terrence Dix. We had Michael Wisher at some point. We had Nicholas Courtney. Loads of people come to visit our school for our club, which was the only reason I went to that god-awful school in the first place. But it was a thing that saw me through, you know. And I think, you know, as much as fandom today is, you know, it's very sexy, it's very popular, you know, what it was. But I don't think they really understand how almost life-threatening it was to be a Doctor Who fan in the late 80s, because it was the least sexy and least you know, great thing ever, because people would just look at you and think, God, Loser.
Literally like you were from another planet. Yeah, or that you're just
Absolutely.
you're a complete loser. Total, total no hope. Pointless
Yeah.
speaking to them. And even if they did speak to us, they would claim they didn't understand a single thing we were talking about, which was
No.
disingenuous. But then
But
again,
seeing those two together, I mean, it was lovely. But again, it was such a shame that it was sort of attached to such a rotten era, quite frankly.
I know.
But
if I could just take those scenes out and put them in anything else, or make them into their own mini-sode, somebody re-edit them. Ian,
oh yeah,
Mega Geek. If you've got a mega minute, you could I get a lot of mileage out of that. You could re-edit those clips and make us a mini-sode. You love the mini-sodes, Ian. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. That's what I'd like. Yes, and I won't have to sit through. The rest. Then I could just watch those bits and see. He was brilliant in that.
I still, to this day, I mean, I watched I did a live stream on Noel's channel, and I said I warned them in advance I would have to be drunk to get through it, and I did. I went through about 2/3 of a bottle of JD, honey JD, of course, because it's nice. And I thought I must be so drunk. I don't know what's going on. And to this day, I still don't know what the hell happened. I don't ask me to tell you the story of the power of the rings, of the power of the girl power, of the doctor, of the day of the Daleks, of the night of the doctor. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't care. But
I do wonder if I asked Sophie or somebody else, what was all that about? I'd love to see, and this is not me being mean in any way. I think Sophie Audred's lovely, but I'd just love to see that. Look,
yeah, but
just a millisecond.
To say, ace doesn't translate as well, or wicked doesn't quite work in the 21st century. I'm sorry, Sophie, I love you.
But I've been thinking a lot about that time lately, and this week too, because this very week, as of recording, we have seen the reinvention of another Doctor Who standard. The new issue of Doctor Who magazine was published, and that's all an after effect of something else, of the dawn of this new era. So everything's sort of gradually getting cleansed, isn't it? Well, saying gradually, they bleached the entire intellectual property within 36 hours of Jodie to the leaving screen. Yeah. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, straight away.
But
they didn't even waste a day.
No. But if you think about it, right, and for us, we saw it on Sunday night, our time. For the Americans, they got it 6 or 7 hours later on television. And within about 8 hours after that, Ncuti Gatwa, he was in America effectively at the press launch for the next era.
No time wasted. No time.
Yeah, it was like
no time at all.
He was on the podium. He was doing the meeting and the greeting and all that kind of thing. And then again, a day later, we found out about this sort of huge Disney Plus deal. But with the unveiling of the new logo and all this, it's such an exciting time. And obviously, this is so reminiscent of our youths, our childhoods. Everything that comes with that, but also reminds me and ties a little bit into Sylvester. It reminded me of the first time that I ever saw the Sylvester McCoy era logo, and that was on the cover of Doctor Who magazine as well. It was the summer special.
I've still got that edition there, the one that's in front of him.
So
that's the one from his era I've still got.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, it's a special effects sort of special where they talk a lot about what you were just saying, really, about going on set and wiring up for scenes, wiring up explosives and actual three-dimensional models and all that kind of thing. And I think there's an interview in there with Oliver Elms about how he created. I think he's no longer with us now, Oliver Elms, but he goes through the whole process behind making the Sylvester McCoy title sequence in that, and the design of it, the design of the logo. And it was the very first time that DWM used that logo was on that special. They did refine that in time, but it's the spot color there, the spot color on his umbrella on the cover. But this is from W.H. Smith's in Croydon. They must have had some big launch, which I was never invited to. I don't know. I ask him.
cheap
but I noticed behind
their Villabons and stuff as well.
Yeah, well, if you look behind Sylve there's a copy of the Romans, which is bizarrely enough Yeah, so there's the original. I think that looks like an Andrew Skilleter illustration there that's on that. I'm convinced it is. So that's there just behind him, which means that Target must have not long just published that. And by coincidence, also last week, it was revealed that it's also going to be published as a BBC audio CD, these talking books that they put out. Again, using that artwork. It's as if, I don't know, it's almost like the stars are aligning, Lee. That's how I look at it. But you see McCoy at these things. I mean, look at this one. There you go. That's the bloke that you met, isn't it? That's the guy you met on set in his mid-40s. Would you say?
Although it was, minus his sweater at that time because it was too hot. But yes, and bless him. He's grown into himself, hasn't he, a little bit there?
Yeah.
And even as a much older man, dare I say it, he's still very, very much the Doctor, which I love to see. And he didn't have the best of starts, but then again, neither did his predecessor. So
no.
But he really did find his feet with the role, and I think he, to this day, he loves that. I think he loved the effect that he had on children growing up with his Doctor, and he was a jobbing actor, really. He probably to this day doesn't know very much about Doctor Who and all the rest of it, but as his failing memory will tell you. And I've watched many videos on YouTube of him at various cons talking about it. It's wonderful. I love the one where he's walking around the audience with the microphone to just interviewing people and getting their questions and talking to them directly. It's in America. That's fantastic. It's great.
He seems very interested in people, and more to the point, I think he's challenged and sort of fueled by what interactions with other people bring out in him. I think it kind of, I think it comes from the because he wasn't a stand-up comedian, but he was part of a troupe of comedy performers, wasn't he? They called it the Ken Campbell Road Show. It was him and Ken Campbell and 3 or 4 other people. I think David Rappaport was in there too, the guy from Time Bandits. And from what I understand, they would they'd have their routines, but they would they perform small venues, and they would encourage the audience to heckle them and get involved in things. And they would get, for example, we hear the story about Sylvester stuffing the ferrets down his trousers and all that kind of thing.
That's what it was supposed. I was just thinking that. I was just literally thinking that. I was thinking that was the very thing he was really known for. That and spoons.
Yeah, but apparently he used to play the spoons on the audience members and get like the actual live ferrets. He would encourage audience members to sort of pet the ferrets and things. I think that it's something that he probably still stays with him now, and those skills. I think he's a great. He's kind of, in some ways, he's very similar to Tom Baker in that he was also a monk, wasn't he? He was in the I don't think he actually sort of swore an oath, or maybe it was some sort of religious school, I can't remember, but I think he had quite a similar upbringing, quite a strict upbringing, and then kind of rebelled by running away and becoming a terrible sort of irresponsible performing artist, and just tried to sort of find his way almost by his nose. I admire that in people a lot. It's a great character, but and that was an exciting seat of your pants time, and we're arguably back there now. So we've got a new Doctor, or 2 new Doctors. We've got a new Doctor at the moment, sort of a new old Doctor, but there's a new actual Doctor waiting in the wings. So everything old is new again, and we know so little about this. We probably won't know much about it for quite a while, but we do have the new Doctor Who logo, the new old Doctor Who logo, like an old friend, isn't it? The diamond logo. It's there now. When we saw this revealed here at Type 40, we felt very, very smug because we told our viewers, listeners about this back in May. We'd had several tip-offs that they were looking to reconnect to the legacy brand in some way and to evoke happier times, to get the brand, let's be honest, to get the brand back on track and remind the British public of all generations, Lee, why they love Doctor Who in the first place. And I say that, I won't deny, I say that with some relish because we were right.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I believe in moving on, and I do think this is generally quite a step forward, even if it may look like a step back. I think it's a step forward. My instinctly is that this logo will evolve, and that it won't stay in this place with this exact color scheme. I think they will do a lot more with it, and the style guide would seem to reflect that. So we've got the 1-tier and the 2-tier traditional version there. I was expecting them to move back to some sort of 2-tier orientation, simply because of mobile devices and things like that. Now they can do so much with this. But I'm so busy sort of feasting on this and seeing it on all these wonderful new covers. How exciting to see the Doctor Who brand reinvigorated again and back on
they
track
can sell
again.
merchandise. They can sell merchandise again. So many people. I think it's finally cottoned on that a lot of people, no matter what the product was, if it had that Chibnall era logo, people just wouldn't buy it out of pure bloody mindedness and principle. Quite often, no matter what, if it was, a fantastic release of a book or a vinyl record or whatever, people would just put off by that logo because of what it represented. And seeing this, oh God, please take it off. My eyes are burning.
But yeah, we get that all the time. You've seen when we do the big live streams, we go through the merchandise. So poor JT, he goes away and finds these beautiful things for us and talks about them. And people in the chat, it's never with that logo, not buying it with that logo, or it is constant. And for all that, I think come on, I think sometimes we do sound like a stuck record. It's understandable when it's associated with something that brings people almost distress, but it's by association. I'm delighted to see the brand reinvented again, and looking so glorious there, resplendent in blue. Yeah, it is very sexy. It's been nicely repointed from the original TV logo that they used all the way back from 1974 to 1980. And with the trained eye, we notice these little things, don't we, Lee? Particularly when we've worked in graphics, we put these things side by side. We notice where key lines are and what's been tweaked ever so slightly from those originals.
The C in Doctor.
Yeah. There's lots more differences than you think when you examine it closely. But I was so busy enjoying myself looking at that. It was only last week when I was going through some files and sort of tidying things up, a bit of housekeeping, and I came across a file that you sent me. It was longer ago. I think it must have been about a year and a half ago when you were looking at you were creating graphics, weren't you, for a title sequence for Doctor Who. And you'd latched onto the idea. I don't think there were whispers. I don't think Jodie Whittaker was officially departing yet, but we had whispers that the writing was on the wall, and you'd very much latched onto the idea that was popular in the newspapers at the time, that Michael Sheen could be a contender to take the role. So you created your own title sequence geared around Sheen, didn't you? And some matching graphics all to go with it. And I found one of them in a folder. I thought, wow, that is a lot nearer to the logo than I remember. So this is the one that we're getting, and this is the one that you put together. I mean, was this around a year and a half ago, something like that?
I think it's just over a year ago now. Yeah. Obviously, what I was trying to achieve was an homage to the Bernard Lodge, original, and trying to apply the recently acquired skills that I'd sort of picked up to try and get that sort of slit screen kind of effect with the tunnel, and put it into the quads and getting the diamond logo, because I thought I didn't want to do something totally new. I wanted to do something that was a nod and a wink, if you like, to the classic era, the era that I initially started watching on, when I was about 4 years old. So obviously that title sequence of Tom Baker, where I first saw it, obviously it was Pertwee first in his last season. But for me, that was the definitive happy place for me. That was the Doctor Who that I fell in love with, you know, very, very young age. And I sort of wanted to do something to sort of pay homage to that, but to do the sort of Bernard Lodge title sequence and sort of mix in some modern elements and, you know, but keep it in that sort of classic feel, but sort of updated, contemporized, you know.
In fact, I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to see if I can play the title sequence as well. I think we can play that because you put your own arrangement of the theme tune to it as well, shouldn't we? So didn't you? So it should be.
I did.
We won't get a copyright strike if we play it, will we?
Well, so I guess it's a remix, so it should be all right. But I mean, I struggled really because I wanted to do the Howl theme rather than the Delia, because I'd done a few Delia mixes, and I wanted to kind of mix the elements that I really liked together, and I wanted to try a Howl-esque theme, and I tried very hard to be naughty and find some remix stems, you know, somewhere on the corners of the dusty corners of the interwebs, and I couldn't really find them. So then I actually emailed Peter Howell himself. I didn't get a response. Begging for stem. And then what I did was I found a YouTube video of him discussing how he made the theme tune on an old BBC program. It was either Blue Peter or something like that from, you know, 1980, I guess it was 80, 81. And he did the sort of, you know, the wee, and you had some of the dun 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 dun. So I just nicked those. And some fan did an isolated version.
I think I've seen that. I think it's called the Micro Show or something. Or something like that.
It's on YouTube.
Should you have a quick blast of this? This is on your Instagram account. So people want to find you on Instagram. What's the name there? What should they go and search for?
Audred Audiovisual, or you can find my channel. I think now you can use the @ symbol, so it's @Audred. So youtube.com/@Audred. You'll find it there.
Oh, those the new handles that they've introduced on YouTube. I've been notified about that. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it, but I've got it. Yeah. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, there's no sound.
Yeah. I'm playing it in mute just to be on the safe side.
Yes,
you've got the sort of slit scan thing going on there.
Yeah, well, this is a toroid that I did as a sort of time tunnel. So the red from the past to the blue to the future kind of thing that was used by RTD. And then it comes out the light into the sort of split screen. Oh, gosh, it's very jerky here, isn't it? And there you go. It lights up just like the new one does.
Yeah, it's the diamond.
And you've got the oscillating color, scaly thing in the background.
What I like about it is how you separated the elements the way that you did there. Yeah, very, very nice. And I can't help but think, because if you remember back when we had the changeover between Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi, they were looking for a new title sequence then, weren't they? And they picked somebody, a creator, and something, a fan created sequence was the one that they went to, and I think they commissioned the actual same guy, didn't they, to make the final one. The one that was used on screen wasn't the exact one that he'd originally put on social media, but it was very much along similar lines. It was sort of like a version 5 of what he'd originally done. So I think it's quite likely. I think that your logo is so, I mean, particularly the way the key lines and everything are balanced. I think it's so close that I think
I went with the sort of the thicker Who. I like Doctor being on top of the Who, you know, and the font that I used, you know, the W's got a very pronounced middle arch to it, which kind of pointed up. And originally, I had to slightly offset the Doctor part, and someone, I can't remember who it was, someone spotted that and noticed it was slightly off center. I was like, wow, that's really,
Oh yeah, there's
someone actually
always somebody,
concentrated.
always
Yeah,
someone
but
who'll
I did
notice.
move it. I did move it slightly back, so it was centered again. So yeah, this is the slightly recolor version of the blue Doctor and the red Who. Again, sort of a
But you
nod
see,
and a
this is
wink
where I
to
think they'll take it. This is where I think they'll take the brand. I think it will likely lose the diamond, if not always, but mostly completely. And they will look at the colouring and adapt it away from just being solid blue. I mean, what I love about this is that kind of slightly retro glow, mistiness that you've given it.
Yeah, I had the blue in the top and the red in the bottom, like the Target novels, sort of with that logo. It was
Yeah.
sort of like the blue Doctor and the red Who, and obviously, the white outline. And I used a copper metal color for the actual bulk of the back of it, if you like. Yeah, and I have to say I quite like this version. I think it's my favorite version of it. Even without the diamond, which I use a much more simplified diamond, just to sort of give it the framing. But I quite like it without. I have to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, it's a really nice job, and I think that you've got. This is what I wanted to get you on, because I think you deserve sort of bragging rights on this.
Well, I didn't have in mind, because I didn't think about the diamond, obviously because it's the diamond anniversary of Doctor Who, and it didn't really cross my mind. It's just I wanted to sort of really give an homage to Bernard Lodge, and that was my intent, is to try and just do a sort of modern take on that wonderful title sequence that he did. And I just think how much work that man put into such an incredibly inventive and unusual style. I mean, the howl around effect was great for the three Doctors previously, but this was so different. And I love that, and
All done by
wanted
hand
to
as
do
well,
something
really.
all done by hand. Fantastic work, and camera work, and moving these things, and it's just so clever. I mean, there's a brilliant video on YouTube. You can see how he did it. It's fantastic. So I did a lot of research into that and looked at that and how he did it, and just kind of wanted to give that sort of same effect, but sort of be able to move through it a bit more.
Yeah.
Just to kind of give some fluidity to it and have the TARDIS flying about. Yeah.
I think there was probably a lot of trial and error there from Bernard Lodge and Perseverance.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with it for the anniversary season. Maybe we'll have some sort of stripped back title sequence for that. I don't know. They'll go somewhere. I think the sequence for when Shooty takes over will be a different animal entirely.
I am available for commissions, BBC.
Good man. Good man. But yeah, we really do feel as if we're in a new era, and I love the fact that it's reconnected with the past. Of course, I do. As a bit of an old fart, it does help. And you see how I remember seeing this. I've got this board game, for example, the one on the right. See, in my view, Lee, I don't know how you feel about it. I love all the Doctor Who logos, practically all of them, but this is the only one which, and it's not even my favourite. The neon one is my favourite, unashamedly. But in my view, as both a professional and as somebody who tries to be objective, I think that the original Diamond logo is the true design classic. If we're thinking about things that have stood the test of time, that defy a passage of time, that almost seem ageless.
Well, I think what it's done is it's proved that it's, as it's timeless, because it's from the 70s, but the design language of it is sort of 20s, 30s. There's sort of a mixture between sort of Art Deco
Weird,
and Art Nouveau. Also a bit of Victoriana or Edwardian feel about it as well. And then you see the modern version where it lights up, and it's kind of metallic and blue. And so it's still modern in its design language. And again, as well, I think the design really was inspired by the top-down view of the TARDIS. The square blue.
Oh, you've said that
box.
to me before. No, I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I love the coloured version. I like the blue version. I think the blue version is from the actual opening title sequence is probably my favourite. But I do like the sort of stained glass look about it in a way. I think if they went, that's kind of what I tried to do. The colour aspects, the one that I did with the sort of modulating scales behind it, was to try and give it that kind of stained glass feel, but also kind of moving an alien to it. That's what I wanted.
It looks like it's moving before. It looks like it's moving as a response to us thinking about touching it rather than actually touching it. It's a really nice effect that you've done on that.
I can't claim sort of propriety on that, because it was some guy, I wish I could remember his name, but he did a tutorial on how to make that sort of, it was like a convex modulating square, and it looked like an eye sort of pulsing, and I really liked that, and I kind of just went with that, sort of manipulated it till I got it to do what I wanted it to do. Yeah, so I can't claim that was my own.
But why I think that works so well and feels so much like Doctor Who is because I think that's one of the things that were, I mean, the lozenge shaped logo from the revival from 2005 to 2009. There's a lot of things as a designer that you just wouldn't do with that. I've got very mixed feelings about that logo, but the idea that the glow, the amber, the lava behind it, there's something organic as well as the solid there. That was a conscious choice to evoke that kind of organic feel to the TARDIS. I think absolutely right. And I'm not looking at the logos now, and I remember this response because Russell T Davies, he's an artist as well, and I remember seeing that, and in the run up to the logo being revealed for the revival, I mean, I knew it would be on one line, because if you remember, widescreen TVs had only just come in then, and absolutely everything. I think there was a remit on television to stretch everything out.
Yes.
So it was obvious. And it was everything. The bill title sequence with those black and white squares, that started running across. They really did as if to say, look, we can make your living room seem huge and you're going to need a bigger telly and all those kind of things. So I knew that would happen. But when I saw this logo, I thought, okay, this is Russell. It was a reflection, a 2000s reflection of the diamond logo. That's in place of the diamond, you've got an elongated and slightly rounded diamond that's completely impractical when you try and use it on a magazine cover or a book cover or anything. But on the screen, it had a similar kind of effect. I think it was his way of updating that original diamond logo, and now he's kind of done it again, except more literally. Do you see what I'm saying? Or am I looking too deeply?
No. I think you're right. I think with the whole new Who era, as you can see here, it's all very much spread out across the screen to fill that space. And it's like, look at me, and maybe not so much the last one. It's more like, don't look at me. But I think the diamond logo shows confidence. It shows confidence in what Doctor Who is. Whether that translates into the actual content of the show, that remains to be seen. Ever hopeful. Because I think what Doctor Who's been suffering for a while now is a sort of personality disorder. It doesn't quite know what it is anymore, who it's trying to appease or please, or what it is to, you can't please everybody all the time. You've got to know who your audience is. And I think the new diamond logo shows a definite amount of confidence. It doesn't need to fill the whole screen. It knows what it is. It's unashamedly classic. It is an attention grabber. It is a design classic, and it doesn't have any pretense. It's not trying to be new. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just showing confidence in what Doctor Who is, and I really hope that translates.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see. You know, I as I've said, you know, my favorite arrangement of the logo is Doctor on top, Who at the bottom, and it just smacks you. It's very bold, and that Who just really, that's the branding you want, because the Who is what the show is about. It's who is this guy? It's not a timeless child that's been around 7 million trillion years or whatever it is. It's a Time Lord from Gallifrey, Man in a Box, and that's what it should go back to being, really.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. When you look at the logo from the recently closed out era, from the not Who era, you can see there that what the designers, I can't remember the name of the designers or the company that worked on the Chris Chibnall production, but what they did is they looked at and I transposed this just because that's the kind of thing designers do, everybody. So I transposed the Chibnall logo over the top of the Russell T Davies logo once, because I was convinced it did, and it occupies exactly the same space. When you look at it, so the each end of the yellow line that runs through Doctor Who on the Chibnall logo, that finishes where the lozenge shape finishes on the Russell T Davies, on the David Tennant and Chris Eccleston logo. It occupies exactly the same space. But what they hadn't realised, if you remove that Doctor Who font, the 2005 font from the lozenge shape, that font on its own looks weedy, ineffectual, and doesn't say anything about the show. It's too.
I mean, the design language of it.
It's too spindly. It's too spindly. So
the
with
design
the
language
era,
of it is too thin, as you say. It's too spindly. But it also, with the line go through, it looks like it's almost being crossed out. Do you know what I mean? It looks like there's this line running through it. Like it lacks confidence. It's not a confident logo. It's one that sort of like, oh, look, it's science
That's
fiction.
what struck me about when you were saying about the show. It's a statement of confidence. It knows who it is. It knows where it's taking you. It knows what it's trying to promote.
Go home. Go bold and go home. End of story.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, and I try not to harp on about it because it's all over now. But you think, well, okay, they looked back at what had worked, and they took the wrong lesson from it and created a logo. Which I'm not saying I think in time it may age better, because I do tend to associate the Chibnall era logo more with the Blu-ray range. I know that's particularly to me because I've enjoyed the Blu-ray range so much. But obviously, in time, even that will pass into history. We've got this new logo now to enjoy in a whole new era or two, stretching out in the not too distant future. I'm generally very excited about it, and one of the reasons why I'm so excited is to see the brand evolve again in time. I think it's going to be licking its wounds for a little while, but then, Lee, I think that we are going to see some sort of evolution. And a product line that will change, and DWM, I'm sure that'll change sort of softly over the next few months as it gets into the anniversary, and then again when Shooty's in the role, and we've got series 14. Wow, series 14. Then I think that it will step into even bolder, and hopefully we'll be thinking, God, you know, remember during lockdown when everything was so bleak and the show was awful, and now look at it, and it's at a new high, and we just got to wait, haven't we? Wait and see, and keep everything crossed.
Well, that's it. You know, it's down to them to win back people, and it has been a period of time where people, you know, especially with the timeless child thing, that's not a light thing. You know, Chibnall might be able to ignore it in the final episode, but the fans won't forget. And that has to be addressed, you know, in a lot of people's minds. And going forward, however that moves on, you know, whether it's just completely ignored, like the half human thing or whatever, for a lot of people, that's not going to be enough, you know. And all the member berries and all the wonderful
I can respect that feeling. I don't feel that way, but I certainly understand why people would. Yeah, I get it.
I think if you're going to go bold with the logo, go bold with the direction of the show. I hope that, you know, there is an element of confidence. There seems to be a lot of confidence. As I say, you know, with that confidence, that newfound confidence, you've got to convince people who not only love this show, but have supported it throughout the decades and have passed it on to their children, and their children pass it on to their children, and so on, and not try to sort of, oh well, here's the new audience. We've done that for 5 years. That new audience didn't exist. So just try and remember, you know, if you're using this to trigger the member berries, you know, those are the people you want back, because those are the ones who are going to see this through to the next generation, and so on and so forth.
One more question, mate. Do you think that we have the doors closed on this, that Michael Sheen will never be the Doctor now?
It's another one of mine, yeah. Well, you know,
we can hope. They could surprise us for the 60th, couldn't they? And he may appear.
That's it. Could be.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield style out of some portal.
He is getting on in age, and I think as much as I love an older Doctor, like I love Capaldi, and you know, I love Tom Baker and Pertwee and all that, and Hartnell, of course. The modern audience, you know, that horrible term we hear so much about these days, isn't so on board. I don't know why. That's the Tennant effect, I guess. But I think it would be great. I would still love it, beard and everything. But I would like to see someone like what's his name? Aniran Bernard.
Oh yeah, I know you mean the guy. Yeah, the guy who plays Cilla Black's husband. Yeah, I can never remember the guy's name. Welsh actor.
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
get some Welsh representation in there. You haven't got any so far.
Yeah, why not? I'm just imagining now that in the 60th anniversary special, two of those big sort of whirling things in the Marvel universe open up, and out of one pops Michael Sheen there as the Doctor.
Make it happen. Make it happen.
Out of the other is Chris Marshall, and they high five. Yeah, do
you know? I was half expecting Shooty to have his hair dyed orange, and then you go, finally I'm Ginger. I think that was a missed opportunity.
I wouldn't put it past him style-wise. I think that guy's capable of absolutely anything. And I'm down for pretty much anything. I think a redhead Doctor is long overdue. Yeah, bring what's his name? Elmo. Is it Elmo?
Elmo.
Yeah, whatever. The guy from Sesame Street. Yeah, why not? He's as good as anybody else. So yeah, Lee, tell people again where can people hear more of you, because you YouTube, don't you? You're ubiquitous. You've got a sort of partnership going, haven't you, with Noel Glynn on the TARDIS Zone channel. So where can people hear that and see that and what's going on there?
Well, you can obviously find Noel's channel, the TARDIS Zone. There's also I'm also doing another channel with a friend of mine, drawing Jack Rabbit.
But
we're going to be doing some new thing. So keep an eye out on that channel for more information, I should think. My main other channel really is Audred AudioVisual, where you can just type in @Audred and you should find it. So there's that. I appear on a few other streams like Captain Cockney Spock, or Captain Infinity Spock as he's called now, and also I'm losing my brain. Mr. Brown Alliance. I'm on there on Sundays occasionally. Oh, it has. Oh, you bet. So so lots going on. I've got a few projects in the wings. I've got so much to do. It's ridiculous. I've got a fan audio trailer that I'm working on. I've got an audio drama to mix for Black Glove Studio. I've got some Daleks to do for Ian. It's all it's all going.
And funny you should mention Black Glove, because we've got Chris McCune from Black Glove. He's on the podcast in a couple of weeks. He's coming in for our enormous review, our proper review. We did a live sort of raw reaction review to The Power of the Doctor, but we're doing a proper full review as well. Chris is stepping into the breach. Be a couple of voices on that. That's coming very soon, everybody.
I just have to say as well, big finish if you're listening. Sean Hughes, who plays the first Doctor in the audio drama, the Misshapen Planet that Chris is doing. Sean Hughes is probably the best first Doctor I've ever heard, like since Bill Hartnell. Like he has it nailed down, this guy. I just don't understand why he's not being used, because he is absolutely nailing it as the first Doctor. And he's only a young chap.
I know. Chris has told me about it. It's all the dedication of everybody who's involved in those releases from Chris, sort of coming up with the battle plan of what's going to be done and bringing it all to everybody's ears. It's done the same reason we do all of this. It's all done for the love of who, the love of Doctor Who. And if you love Doctor Who too, and maybe if you've liked this video already, please double check. Go and like it again if you can. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications about everything that's coming next, and leave us a comment too. Let us know your thoughts about the Doctor Who logo, past, present.
Oh my Lord.
A design classic, past, present, and future. We want to know your views about that. What do you think about Lee's design? How close was he after all that? What do you think of Michael Sheen? Is that going to be one of those long fan things that it was one of the best Doctors that we never had? Do you think that's going to stay with us for decades? The way that, I don't know, the way that other famous actors have people like, what's that guy who was in the Harry Potter films who J&T nearly cast after McCoy? Richard Griffiths is a prime example. And Ron Moody, all these people from the past that never ultimately got to be the Doctor. Could Michael Sheen go down in history as the big one that got away? Let us know in the comments section. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's it for this time. Lee, thanks for your company as always, and thank you for the music. That was for you, JT. As always, thanks for all the music that you hear on Type 40 and Type 40 Live. It's all the work of this guy here. And if you want the visuals, follow him on Instagram. I'll make sure that all those links are in the description of the video too. But yeah, that's it for this time. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40. You lot take care. Speak to you soon. Bye everybody. Bye. It's time for me to hit this.